For every great anime protagonist, there are countless villains who hide in the shadows, waiting for the right opportunity to enact their plans of the world domination. Thanks to the anime community's love of heroic main characters, these dastardly plans are rarely enacted. However, every so often, these villains are actually able to have an everlasting impact on their respective series. Successful anime villains may be scarce, but that does not mean they do not exist. A few iconic antagonists have realized their plans and changed the world they call home, even if their roles in the narrative isn't a major one. Accordingly, they should be recognized for their achievements. So let's go over the list of top 12 anime antagonists that changed how we view anime forever. On the 12th number, the antagonist's name is Walter C. Dornes. Walter C. Dornes is a major antagonist and anti-hero in the manga series Hellsing and its OVA adaptation Hellsing Ultimate. He is a butler to the Hellsing family before betraying them to join Millennium as an artificial vampire. Alucard goes on to present what he believes is the reason for Walter's betrayal is his fear of becoming old and useless. To prove his abilities to himself, Walter desired to destroy Alucard and allowed this obsession to consume him. Eventually, Walter ends up fighting against Alucard and Integra, doing his best to kill the vampire in one-on-one fight with his new powers. At one point in the fight, he reveals that he foresaw Rich's attempted coup and assassination attempt and did nothing to stop it. This was just one of the many dastardly deeds Walter ended up committing, making him a villain in secret almost all along. His betrayal is still one of the hardest one to stomach in all of the anime, as he was really a likable character that just let a thirst of power consume him, turning him from an anime hero to a villain. On the 11th number, the character name is Gendo Ikari. Gendo Ikari is Shinji Ikari's father and commander of NERV. He played a major role in the research and construction of the Evangelions and the Human Instrumentality Project. Gendo abandoned his son Shinji when he was toddler, and throughout the series, he was uninterested, distant and harsh towards Shinji. In the movie The End of the Evangelion, Gendo and Rei are in the central dogma in front of Lilith. He asks Rei to lower the AT field so that he can see Yui, his deceased wife, again. Rei is supposedly made from some part of Yui, and when AT field is lowered, she and Gendo will dissolve into the soup of life, uniting Gendo with the pieces of Yui. She denied him, saying, "I will not be your puppet," and cuts off part of his hand into her body. Despite his want to be reunited with his wife, he has affairs with Naoko Akagi, the developer of the Magi, and her daughter Ritsuko Akagi, head scientist of NERV. That is no love in these relationships, and Gendo only does it to gain their favors or have them keep secrets. On the next number, the antagonist's name is All For One from My Hero Academia. All For One is the overarching antagonist of the My Hero Academia manga and anime series. He is the founder and the benefactor of the League of the Villains. Once Japan's most powerful villain and All Might's arch nemesis, his full identity is still unknown. His ultimate goal is to steal his younger brother's quirk One For All, and the only quirk that can oppose him, shaping Tomura Shigaraki into the perfect vessel before eventually conquering the rest of the world. He was imprisoned in Tartarus after his second defeat at All Might's hands until he escaped several months later. Now single-mindedly focused on destroying the ninth wielder of One For All, Izuku Midoriya, to complete his centuries-long plan. On the next number, the antagonist's name is Dio Brando from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Dio Brando is the main antagonist in the original universe of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, featured primarily as the main antagonist in Phantom Blood and Stardust Crusader, and the posthumous key antagonist in the Stone Ocean. After becoming a vampire and later a stand user, Dio has gathered around his many minions and is responsible for many major events of the series, from the death of Jonathan Joestar to Joestar family's sudden acquisition of stand powers, and his legacies persist throughout the series. He is the wielder of the immensely powerful power, the world. Really, his only downfall is that he is always overconfident. Instead of dealing with the Joestars and their allies immediately, he always gets up caught in the theatrics of his plots and pays dearly for it every time. Still though, when he takes center stage as the series villain, it's really hard not to be enraptured by his antics and absurd sense of ambition. On the next number, the antagonist's name is Sosuke Aizen from Bleach. Sosuke Aizen is the former captain of the 5th Division of the Gotei 13. He later leaves Soul Society with his followers Genichimaru and Kaname Tonsen. He formerly served as the lieutenant of the 5th Division under Shinji Hirako. After waging war against Soul Society with an army of Arrancar, Aizen was defeated by Ichigo Kurosaki and sealed away by Kisuke Urahara, and then imprisoned for his crimes. Initially portraying himself as one of the Bleach's more pacifistic Soul Reaper, this evil genius hid his ambitions of overthrowing the order of the Soul Society and escalated his own powers for nigh of decades. All the while, he planned and plotted meticulously for every outcome and possibility. Even birth and arrival of Ichigo Kurosaki comes as little surprise to him, with his plans factoring in his arrival to use the wild card to his advantage. This admittedly escalated to the point of being convoluted and a stretch at times, but more often than not it distinguishes him as a true threat to the protagonist's strategy, as making it up as they go along. On the 7th number, the character name is Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. Make fun of his color schemes and hand-shaped feet all you want, but you do so at your own peril. Frieza is the biggest and the baddest of all enemies on Goku's path throughout the Dragon Ball franchise, both due to his physical prowess and sharp intellect, as well as his grander design of conquering planets for his own profit. For him, the life of one planet is meaningless in the face of greater personal gain. Look no further than the time Frieza destroyed the entirety of Earth for proof. He's intelligent, ruthless, vicious, powerful, and despises pity. Not because of tragic backstory, but because he is a true psychopath. He has no guilt or remorse, other than not totally wiping out the Saiyans. Empathy is a foreign concept to him. He has no emotional attachments even to his own universe. Frieza believes himself to be the best and the most powerful, of which he probably isn't so far. But still, he carries himself with elegance and will lie at the drop of the pen. On the 6th number, the character name is Garo from One Punch Man. Garo is a major antagonist in One Punch Man series, serving as the titular main antagonist of the Human Monster saga. He was once a disciple of Bang and a top student, then was later kicked out from the dojo for brutally assaulting many of the students. After that event, he would begin his mission of becoming the ultimate monster by targeting and defeating any hero he came across, resulting in the Hero Association viewing him as an enemy and calling him the Human Monster. What I like most about Garo is that in the deep down, he's a good person, but he chooses bad because he's seen what passes good. The world's strongest warriors turning a blind eye as normal people abuse vulnerable with impunity. He wanted to unite the world against a common foe. There's sort of an unhinged nobility to it. Granted, it's a danger to society at large and is unsustainable, impossible as long as Saitama is alive too. But it came from a good place, so that's why I put him on the 6th number on this list. On the next number, the antagonist's name is Shogo Makishima from Psycho Pass. Shogo Makishima is a criminally asymptomatic individual whose state's goal is to liberate Japanese society from the Sibyl system, as he believes that it is turning its citizens into non-thinking automatons instead of independent thinking human beings. He is the main antagonist in the first season of Psycho Pass. In a dystopian future where crimes are determined before they are even committed, Shogo Makishima poses the ultimate threat, an anomaly that the system cannot detect. Makishima is able to commit crimes without detection. This includes robbery, conspiring to attack someone, and even cold-blooded murder. He is not shy about using this to his advantage either. Inquisitive as to why he is the way he is and determined to bring down the Sibyl system, he tests the limit of his gift by orchestrating events that throw the world around into a chaos. It's for this reason only that he has temporarily brought down the digital law enforcement program, driving all of Japan into a state of frenzy and panic as crimes are committed by anyone and everyone with little to no consequences. On the 4th number, the character name is Madara Uchiha from Naruto Shippuden. Madara Uchiha was the legendary leader of the Uchiha clan. He founded Konohagakure alongside his childhood friend and rival Hashirama Senju. with the intention of beginning an era of peace. When the two couldn't agree on how to achieve that peace, they fought for control of the village, a conflict which ended up in Madara's death. Madara, however, rewrote his death and went into hiding to work on his own plans. The epitome of shinobi war, Madara Uchiha embodies the spirit of his age as well as the defiance of outdated mindsets refusing to fade away. Raised in an age of war and conflict, Madara embodies everything that he needs to survive the world around him. Fast, cunning, privy to godlike ninjutsu, he crushed almost all of the people who came up against him. This served him well enough during the times of war, but when the world turned to peace, he fought himself at odds with others on how to achieve it. Where they sought to let people strive for it themselves, he sought to use his powers to force them into submitting to his views on how peace should be achieved. On the third number, the character name is Light Yagami from Death Note. Light Yagami is the main protagonist of the Death Note series. After discovering Death Note, he decided to use it to rid the world of criminals. His killings are eventually labeled by the people living in Japan as the work of Kira. Being extremely driven by his hubris and god complex, Light goes on to believe that no one can outsmart him. And it is this belief that makes him kill the first decoy that L set up for him. Moreover, he goes on a ruthless killing spree, believing that no one in the world would be able to figure out how he is doing it, at least in terms of ridding the world of crime and suffering. But in execution, this ambition quickly corrupts him worse than he already was. In addition to criminals, Light also manipulates and kills almost everyone around him he deems a threat. Policemen, investigators, and even his own family falls victim to his plotting, all while he continues to advance his plans. The worst part is, even after he is brought down for his crimes, he gets his wish. Some in the world idolizes him for his actions, making him a person of worship long after his death. On the second number, the character name is Johann Liebert from Monster. Johann Liebert, or Johann Roberto, is the titular monster and the main antagonist of the series. Consider the theme behind Monster as a whole, as Johann beliefs are the antithesis of what humanity needs to believe in order to survive. This is the theme of Monster. Johann has no respect for life whatsoever, no respect for the lives of others or his own too. He comes from a purely nihilistic perspective. I believe that is what makes him a pure villain. He himself represents the darkest corners of the people's hearts, and he himself doesn't kill anyone. He sets oil onto the fire. There is no Johann. There is only the nameless monster which devours people from inside out. Johann is like a cross between Hannibal Lecter and the Joker. He is a shrew and emotionless serial killer who employs his cunning, intelligence, and talent for manipulation to carry out his own plans. The thing that makes him such a terrifying villain, a true monster, is his humanity. And at last, on the first number, the character name is Griffith from Berserk. Griffith is the central antagonist of the manga series Berserk and its anime adaptations. He is the founder and the leader of the mercenary army known as the Band of the Hawk. As a mercenary, Griffith fought in the 100-Year War and restored peace to the war-torn kingdom of Midland and was once a close friend and ally of Guts. After being tortured, however, he used the eclipse to sacrifice his entire army and later was reborn as Femto, the fifth, newest, and the final member of the God Hand. Having his flawed human side keeps Griffith a bit grounded and makes him well-rounded too. He can be petty, jealous, or impulsive, all of which makes him more airy and compelling as a villain. A good example was when he threw a silent tantrum after Guts left the Band of the Hawk in the Golden Age story arc. Griffith did nothing wrong by himself, but everyone else, though, he did them the worst of injustices and continues to do so with each breath he takes, as arguably the worst and at the same time the best anime villain of all time. What are your thoughts about this list? Let me know which is your favorite villain from this list in the comment section down below. And that's it for today's video, guys. Check out my other top 10 videos over here. Now if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel because I post regular anime content on this YouTube channel. So yeah, that's it for today's video, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.